Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back. And welcome back, No Contact Army. Have you been a good little soldier or a bad little soldier? And if you too would like to enlist in the No Contact Army, it's very easy. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button and you're in. And if you want to read the No Contact Army manual, just go to nocontactsecrets.com where you can download 2 free chapters before buying the book. This week, I want to talk about why relationships end. Often, when I'm with a coaching client, they want to know why did their ex break up with them. And sometimes it's very obvious from what they tell me about the reason their ex left, and sometimes it's not so obvious. And I think that's the hardest breakup to go through, where you don't know the reason, and maybe your ex gave you a bunch of reasons, and maybe none of them made sense, or they gave you no reason at all, and so you're left wondering what it is that you did wrong. And maybe you didn't do anything wrong. Maybe it didn't have anything to do with you at all. And so in my never-ending quest for knowledge, I came upon a post by someone that I follow on Instagram, New York therapist, and her Instagram handle is NY Therapist, and she talked about endings of relationships. And so I'm going to go through some of these points. I've contacted her and asked her if I could use her post, and she very kindly said I could. So thank you, Tori. So it's my belief that when someone breaks up with you, it's because their interest level went below 50%. They lost attraction for you. However, then the next question becomes, but why did they lose attraction? Why did their interest level go below 50%? And so this is what I'm going to attempt to answer today. So the quote that I first saw on the post was, "No amount of logic or understanding can replace grieving the end of a relationship." So that caught my eye, so keep that in mind. We're going to try to explain why your ex left, but at the same time, unfortunately, if you don't get back together, you still have to go through the grieving process. Okay, so she starts off by saying, sometimes relationships end because we're running away from what love reveals in us. That what connection and love forces us to see in ourselves is too hard, too painful, or we aren't ready to face it. And actually, Marianne Williamson, who I followed for many years, the spiritual guru, says that love brings up everything unlike itself in order to be healed. And so you're dating someone, you get triggered, they get triggered, and they just can't face the feelings that they're feeling. And so it's better to just leave, run away, move on. The next reason could be, she says, sometimes relationships end because there is a deep sense of knowing that the pairing just isn't right. That on paper, the relationship is great, but deep within a real feeling of knowing it's not forever. And in fact, actually, recently I was speaking to a client, and he told me the day before he got married, the night before, he was speaking to his groomsmen saying, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. And it was a destination wedding. And unfortunately, he went through with the wedding. And of course, now it's over. If he had consulted me, I would have said, you know what, stop I don't care if it's a destination wedding. Stop. Do not go through with it. It's not going to last. It's better to just feel embarrassed now, lose the money, whatever, because if you stay, you're going to lose even more money, and it's going to do a lot more damage than stopping the wedding now. But of course, he didn't consult me. The next one, sometimes relationships end because we neglected the connection for so long that we've already grieved the relationship we're in without even knowing. Because of this, we cannot muster up the energy to work on anything or stay. So we've just kind of given up, or your partner gave up, and they, pretended to be there. They were there physically, but mentally and emotionally, they weren't for whatever reason. And so they finally just said, okay, time to end this. The next one, sometimes relationships end because the dynamic together is just too unhealthy, that the triggers between us are just too intense, too much, leaving us too broken. So these would be what we call the toxic relationships. I think we all know these, where there's so much drama on both sides. And no matter how much love you have or think you have for the other person, you just cannot be with them. The next one is sometimes relationships end because we get clearer on our values, get to know ourselves more, and realize that the version of us who chose someone no longer exists. And this happens when you're working on yourself as you get older, because if you get married in your early 20s, you're not going to be the same person when you're 30. And who you would have chosen, or who you did choose, let's say in your early 20s, is probably not going to be the same person you choose in your 30s. And then you realize, you know what, I can't be with this person anymore. Or even if you marry later, but you work on yourself and you grow so much that now the version of you that would have picked that person, or that did pick that person, almost doesn't exist anymore. So you just can't be there, or your partner couldn't be there if they broke up with you. The next one is sometimes relationships end because we're deeply working on our own growth and the other struggles to embrace theirs, and the disconnect becomes too large. So this is similar to the one that I just talked about, working on yourself. So if neither of you work on yourselves, then hey, you'll stay together. But if one of you does and the other one doesn't, especially let's say one was an alcoholic and one wasn't, one was an addict and one wasn't, or you were both alcoholics or both addicts, and someone gets cleaned up, then how can you be there? It's difficult to stay in that type of dynamic if that's no longer you. The next one, sometimes relationships end and we don't understand it. We were all in and the other one just wasn't. And we have to work on our self-worth alongside accepting their choice. Exactly. How people behave, how people treat you is not always a reflection of you. It's also a reflection of them. And it doesn't mean there was anything wrong with you just because they weren't all in, just as you may date someone and not be all in with them. There's two more. The next one is sometimes relationships end and no amount of logic or understanding can take away the pain, the grief, the sadness, the feelings of self-worth getting intertwined with the ending, the feelings of hopelessness and fear of being alone, the feelings of what we could have done better, what we should have done better. So it's the old woulda, coulda, shoulda. I should have done this, I should have done that, I could have done this. Yes, we all could have done things differently in the past with all types of situations, but we didn't. And so we're human, we learn, we grow, and we seek to do better next time. And then finally, the last one is sometimes relationships end, and while nothing can take away the pain, those endings are always the catalyst to a healthier, more loving, stronger sense of self. The hardest part is we have to move through the pain to get there. So it's up to you how you move through the pain. As I've mentioned before, that for me, a breakup, if someone breaks up with me, or maybe even if I break up with them, it brings forth my superpowers. It releases my superpowers for some reason. It just makes me stronger. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to show you. And so it makes me level up even more. And I learn from my mistakes and I go, okay, I'm never going to do this again. I'll never do this again. And that's why I have a lot of knowledge to share with you, because I took the mistakes that I made, and trust me, I made a lot of mistakes, but I usually did not repeat them, thank God. And now I can pass that knowledge on to you. And you can do the same with your own relationship or relationships. Do a sort of post-mortem to see what you would do better next time, what you'll never do again, what you'll never put up with again, and how you'll move forward in your next relationship. And that way, at least you get something out of the relationship, even if it ended. So now it's your turn. Comment below and let me know if any of these reasons resonated with you and why. And in the meantime, if you would like help getting your ex back, you can contact me at theartoflove.net. The direct link is below and we will send you the rates. If you're listening on YouTube, remember to like, subscribe, and share. If you're listening on iTunes, I would appreciate if you would rate and review the podcast. And finally, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.